Drug lord and politician Pablo Escobar pictured attending the Colombian Congress in 1982. Operation Overlord on June 6, 1944, marked the Normandy landings and the beginning of the liberation of Nazi-occupied Western Europe. A woman on a New Jersey beach in 1939 showing a lifeguard why she is sunbathing topless, only to discover that the prohibitory sign was intended for men. Colleagues gather at the bedside of Catherine Wolfe Donahue in the USA 1938, who was dying of a tumor and had lost all her teeth. These women hand-painted glowing watch faces using radium-based paint. Factory management was aware of the dangers but failed to warn the workers. Winston Churchill speaking on one of the first portable radios at Fort Jackson, 1942. This photograph captures the start of a race featuring one-legged veterans of World War I held in New York in 1918. In Afghanistan in 1996, the Taliban use a tank to crush alcohol seized during the capture of Kabul. Prior to signing Germany's surrender on May 8, 1945, Field Marshal Keitel, head of the German delegation, noticed French military personnel at the ceremony and astonishingly asked, "What? Did these also defeat us?" Pictured is the defendant's dining table at the Nuremberg trials in Germany, 1945. During the Junkai Marathon, Kenyan runner Jacqueline Kiplimo sacrificed a win to slow down and help a disabled athlete drink water, running with him for 28 kilometers. She finished second, but stated she did not regret her humanitarian act. A display of the various hairstyles popular among American women during the 1960s. Treadmills were originally invented as a form of punishment for criminals, where convicts were forced to climb the equivalent of 10,000 to 15,000 meters, a task more exhausting than working in the mines. A crime reporter questions a gang member during his arrest in Russia, 1991. An apraxia vendor is pictured wearing a suit made from the same material in 1890. A portrait of the Siamese twins Rosa and Joseph Blazek, accompanied by Rosa's lover, Franz Dvorak. A photograph from around 1900 showing the coffin beds inside a Salvation Army shelter in London, which was among the first shelters established for the homeless. U.S. Lieutenant Jeremy Shales is seen playing baseball inside one of Saddam Hussein's palaces in Iraq, 2003. In Berlin, 1945, an orphaned German boy is seen trading his father's Iron Cross medal for cigarettes. The graves of a Catholic woman and her Protestant husband are shown separated by a wall in the Netherlands, 1888. After their deaths, the community refused to allow them to be buried in the same cemetery. Wenceslao Miguel, a prisoner during the Mexican Revolution, was sentenced to death by firing squad and shot 9 times. Incredibly, despite all bullets hitting their mark, he survived, escaped, and lived for many years afterward. In 1985, a functioning, unmarked plane with the remains of 18 people in military uniforms was found in the wilderness. Examination showed they had died a year earlier, and all case files were classified. A look at German companies that supplied the Third Reich during World War II. Fidel Castro, the future revolutionary leader of Cuba, is pictured in Central Park, New York, USA in 1955. A World War II veteran earning a living in Tokyo, Japan, 1951. In the 1940s, women were permitted to smoke in maternity wards. One of the very earliest versions of a diving suit is shown. A haunting image from 1914 shows the crazed stare of a shell-shocked soldier during World War I. One of Hitler's doubles was his chauffeur, pictured to the left of Hitler, who often substituted for the Führer at various events. In 1880, cocaine was a common ingredient in many medicines used to treat ailments such as colds, neuralgia, headaches, and insomnia. The excavation of the Berezovsky Mammoth in the Russian Empire, 1901. A desperate struggle for survival is captured in this photo, showing an American punching a Vietnamese man in the face while fighting for a spot on the last helicopter departing the U.S. Embassy during the 1975 evacuation of Saigon. The Dance of Loyalty, performed in the PRC in 1967, was a ritualistic dance intended to symbolize the dancer's devotion to the nation's leader, Mao Zedong. In Berlin in 1945, a sign displays a quote from Hitler, "Give me 5 years, and you will not recognize Germany." Bobby Leach, who went over Niagara Falls in a barrel in 1911, was the first man to survive the feat. Soviet and American troops embrace near the ruined bridge at Torgau in 1945. Their smiles are genuine, but hide the trauma of 4 years of war, including Stalingrad, Normandy, Leningrad, and Pearl Harbor. A French girl kisses an American soldier on Valentine's Day in 1945. The image is ambiguous to some. This is considering that Allied bombings caused significant civilian casualties in France during the war. Mary Connors, billed as the human nucleus, is shot from a cannon over the Avon River in Bristol, England, 1974. The DeLorean DMC-12 photographed with the filming crew of the movie Back to the Future in the USA, 1985. A photograph documenting a rally of black people held in Russia during 1963. "Bombing for peace is like having sex for virginity" was a famous slogan adopted by hippies protesting the Vietnam War during the 1960s. Sleeping cabinets were popular in the UK in the 17th century to provide privacy, warmth, and protection from insects and untrained house animals that sometimes attacked sleeping people. George Dyler, the beer-drinking champion of the United Kingdom in 1954, consumed a pint in just 4 seconds. In the 1970s in South Korea, jaywalkers caught by the police were punished by being forced to stand in a shame box for 30 minutes. Jacques Plante becoming the first goaltender in hockey history to play wearing a mask, 1959. An encampment of impoverished people located in Central Park, New York, 1932. A Jewish person's final smile before being sent to the Auschwitz gas chamber. A 6-person bicycle racing against a train. In 1896, man often tried to compete with the dawning era of machines. The World Championship of sitting on a pole took place in the Netherlands in 1971. The trampoline was originally invented by Eskimos to spot whales earlier during hunts. They used a stretched walrus skin that could propel them to a height of nearly 4 stories. The parents of Krista McAuliffe are captured watching the Space Shuttle Challenger explode in 1986. John F. Kennedy Jr., at age 3, salutes his father's casket in the U.S., 1963. A vice admiral, his wife, and a rear admiral stand before a ceremonial cake celebrating the successful U.S. atomic tests at Bikini Atoll, 1946. In 1923, American inventor Murphy struggled to sell his bulletproof vest to skeptical police. He finally donned the vest himself and stood before a sheriff who fired a bullet at him to prove its effectiveness. During the Battle of Stalingrad in 1942, the average life expectancy of a soldier on the front line was only 24 hours. A Soviet war veteran is pictured near the eternal flame on the anniversary of Victory Day in 1966. Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested in 1964 for suing to demand service at a restaurant designated for whites only. A photograph of an arrested Saddam Hussein in Iraq, 2003. Participants practicing for the traditional annual pancake race. A radium mask designed for the treatment of facial cancer is shown in 1920. A postcard from the 1920s with the caption, "I always wash my kitty with fragrant soap." Albert Einstein at his home in New Jersey 1 month before his death in 1955. People resting on a lawn on a clear day in New York on September 11, 2001. Harold Gillies is justifiably known as the father of modern plastic surgery. Through his innovative skin grafting techniques, soldiers who suffered severe disfigurement during World War I were offered the opportunity for a new life. A man who raised a bull and sold it to the arena was recognized by the wounded animal during a fight. The bull ran to him among hundreds of spectators seeking salvation. The man kissed the animal, after which it was killed. Spanish newspapers dubbed this the kiss of Judas. A cyclist in Estonia is shown riding a self-made wooden bicycle in 1912. Before releasing a new batch of cigarettes, manufacturers tested them to ensure they were not immediately lethal. These tests were conducted on subjects with no legal rights, typically resulting in an agonizing death. Doctors bow in reverence to 11-year-old Liang Yaoyi, who died of brain cancer. Upon his diagnosis, the boy volunteered to donate his organs, saving several lives. He told his mother he wanted to be like the wonderful people who do good deeds. A view of the city of Dubai as it appeared in 1965. A white dove lands on Fidel Castro's shoulder during his first televised address to the citizens of Cuba in Havana, 1959, and remained there for the entire 2-hour speech. This photograph depicts the 1st German Sex Intelligence Division during World War II, whose members were selected specifically for their physical appearance. Young women from high society are pictured wearing the latest fashionable attire in Paris during the 1910s. Soldiers of the Russian Imperial Army are shown wearing gas masks during World War I. Kenyan President Daniel Arap Moi burns 12 tons of ivory confiscated from poachers in Kenya, 1989. Workers cleaning the canals of Venice, Italy in 1956. A British sergeant is seen training a group known as the Army of Moms during the Battle of Britain in 1940. In the United Kingdom in 1872, the first woman attempting to vote is pushed out and thrown to the ground while trying to enter a polling station. In Paris in 1932, a contest is held to determine the most elegant smoking style. A World War II veteran and participant in the storming of Berlin visits the grave of a fellow soldier on May 9, 1980. French police are depicted showing the way to entering German Wehrmacht troops in Paris. In 1945, France would go on to become one of the victorious nations. A prisoner at the Dachau concentration camp is subjected to a medical experiment in 1943. The Jolly Rogers, the American 90th Bombardment Group, pictured in 1942. During the 1919 race riots in Chicago, a group of white people stand near the home of a black family that they had set on fire. A unique mobile confessional booth is spotted on the streets of Częstochowa, Poland in 1964. In Massachusetts, 1989, a Boston police officer is shown pulling his canine partner, Fritz, from a construction pit. In Seoul, 1963, a woman snatches a matchbox from a monk attempting to set himself on fire. A look at the appearance of athletes in the 19th and 20th centuries. During the 1960s in Istanbul, tavern owners employed porters whose specific job was to carry highly intoxicated regular customers back to their homes. In 1969, a small group of Native Americans occupied the former prison of Alcatraz to protest human rights violations in the U.S. They held the land, which they considered Native American, for 3 years, demanding honesty and respect from the government for their tribes. The last photograph of the passengers on the Uruguayan Air Force plane that crashed in the Andes on October 13, 1972, of the 45 people on board, 27 initially survived but had to consume the bodies of the deceased to live, and ultimately 16 were rescued after 72 days. In Puritan England during the 19th century, anything considered erotic was strictly avoided. Even piano legs were covered with cloth to prevent any indecent thoughts. Inspired by abstractionism and surrealism, Republicans created special torture chambers for captured Francoists during the Spanish Civil War. These rooms featured beds tilted at a 20-degree angle, floors with randomly placed bricks, and paintings on the walls. Torture methods also included forcing prisoners to watch the film Un Chien Andalou. This represents the oldest known advertisement for escort services, sandals worn by ancient Greek prostitutes featuring a mirrored inscription. The sole left an imprint on the ground that read, "Follow me," advertising their services to those walking behind them. Marie Azélie Hadel, the final Hadel family member to own the Whitney plantation, is pictured alongside one of her enslaved house girls. The crew of the USS Pueblo returns to the U.S. in 1968 after being held in captivity in North Korea for 11 months. In March 1991, Albanians fled to Italy, marking the first time in many years that Western Europe experienced such a mass influx of refugees, as more than 20,000 Albanians unexpectedly arrived at the Italian port of Brindisi. Bulgarian peasants are shown utilizing an elephant for fieldwork in the year 1900. 5-year-old Lena Medina, the youngest mother in the world, holds her baby shortly after giving birth in Peru, 1939. Pictured here is Stubby, the most renowned war dog of the First World War and the only canine to ever receive a promotion to the rank of sergeant. Stefan Bobrowski, also known as Lionel the Lion-Faced Man, was born in Poland in 1890 and had hypertrichosis, meaning his entire body was covered in hair. Oda Benga was kidnapped from the Congo in 1904 and transported to the USA, where he was put on display in a human zoo. From smiles to frowns, whatever you felt, share it in the comments section. The next video is coming soon, so stay tuned. Please drop a like and subscribe for more. Catch you later.